Hi, my name is Justin, and I've been creating a TTRPG called Awakened. Let's talk about that. So basically, I created this card game called Plasma Points during the pandemic. This isn't the game we're talking about today, but Plasma Points is all the fun of a trading card game, like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic, but it's all in one deck that supports up to 5 players. If you didn't know that, now you know. Link to the Game Crafter page is in the description. But in the game, there was a concept called awakening that I really loved. Basically, when you awakened, your normal self fell away and you became this being made purely of power. It was very limited, but for the duration, you had an immense amount of power. Cut to September 2022. I'm getting the idea of creating my own TTRPG. I'm working out the first character classes, and my now business partner says, "Why don't you add Awakening to the TTRPG?" And the rest is history. We ran with the concept, and almost 4 months later, we have an over 60-page, double-columned document that is the rulebook for Awakened. And I'm extremely proud of where we've gotten in such a short amount of time. So, what have we come up with? Well, Awakened is a science fiction TTRPG set in a universe reeling from the galaxy-wide war that ended just 40 years ago. Awakened currently has 10 different classes, 12 playable species, creature-to-creature combat, as well as spaceship combat. You can create your own spaceship as well, for the right price. And, of course, it contains a new version of Awakening. Now, here's a little bit of an introduction to the lore. In the year 2258, a comet passes by Earth, awakening a specific type of crystal on Earth, crystals that hold great power. Earth soon learned, however, that the power was desired by many in the galaxy. Soon after the crystals were awoken, the first of many different species visited Earth. The draw of such power eventually led to a somewhat obvious consequence: war. And our game begins 40 years after the war's end, showing you a galaxy that has seen better days. Now, how did we get here? Luckily, I have obsessively kept records throughout this whole process, so I can tell exactly when we did what. Pretty early on in my documents, I can see that our first outcome mechanic was decided, a coin flip. This would later change when we finally got around to playtesting it and found out it just wasn't as satisfying as rolling a die. Another aspect of the game that came along rather quickly was character creation, and I think I know why. I first started writing the game during a time period in which I was playing a lot of D&D with my friend group. I'm talking 3 games a week. It was sort of madness, but we loved it. Anyways, I was creating so many characters that when I decided to start on character creation in my game, I knew I wanted to create something that streamlined the process. What came out is a character creation system that cuts out the time wasted and saves time for playing the game. Our character creation system is a simple point-based system where you choose your base stats of brawn, finesse, and brains and get a modifier that affects your base skills. You then get a number of points to improve your ability in the skills of your choice. Another part of character creation is creating your awakened soul, which really boils down to picking 3 abilities from a list of both passive and active abilities, such as becoming incorporeal for the duration, or creating a soul weapon that you then wield with a massive damage boost. Another early part of the creation process was deciding on character classes. We've gone from anywhere between 6 and 12 classes, but have finally settled in on 10 that I'm really happy with. You have the Brawler, who fights with their fists, the Disciplined, who fights with melee weapons, the Gunner, who fights with ranged weapons, the Evolved, who essentially have force powers, the Crystal Weavers, who are able to make wonders happen by tapping into a crystal's power, Technicians, who use crystals to power their technology, engineers who make their own technology that isn't crystal-based, chemists who create concoctions to hurt as well as heal, the hacker that, hacks, and Finally, the medic that heals. The next thing that came along were the attributes. These are things that both describe your character and give you benefits in game. Things like broad-shouldered, that gives you the ability to wear an armor type heavier than you'd usually be able to wear. Or fast, that allows you to gain 2 blocks of movement when you take the movement action on your turn. At this point, we then turned to creating talents, which are, I suppose, our version of spells in our game. In the future, magic and science have become almost one and the same, and traditional magic is all but gone, giving way to a cleaner, more easy to reproduce scientific effect. The classes that are able to use talents are the Evolved, who get Force abilities, the Crystal Weavers, whose abilities tend to be more nature-driven, and the Technicians, who have all sorts of fun abilities due to their crystal technology. The next thing we started to write was a series of adventures meant for the characters from level 1 to 10. This was a nice break from all the non-stop creation, and it gave us the ability to relax and tell some stories. Starting the adventures quickly showed us what was missing from our world, namely creatures. We quickly started creating creatures from whole cloth and adapting current day creatures to the future. And then came the day where we started the battle rules. And suddenly so many things came into focus. We needed status effects, damage types, weapons, armor, magic items. So what did we do? We got to work. One thing to expect going into making a TTRPG is the never-ending list of to-dos that you will collect. Every new thing you create leads to another thing that you need to create, and this just goes on forever. But eventually you get to a point where you can say, okay, this is finished. Finished enough, at least. Now, where are we? Basically, we're finalizing the rules now, playtesting as much as we possibly can, and continuing to fine-tune our rules. We've got a basic goal for a release of next year, and are currently searching for help in the areas that we aren't able to master. That's another thing to expect. Not doing it all yourself. Doing every little thing is a lofty goal, and it's really cool when someone does it, but not everyone works in the same way. I personally make art, but my style wouldn't really work for the game that we're making, so we found an artist that we really like to illustrate the book for us. Similarly, we're looking for someone to design the inside of the book, so if you're out there and know how to design books, I suppose, hit us up. I don't know. All right, that was a little bit about our current project called Awakened. Have any questions? Leave them in the comments or hit us up on Instagram at Ugly Games. Ugly is spelled with an I, not a Y. Also, are you creating a TTRPG? I'd personally love to hear about it. I read all the comments, so let me know down below. I have been Justin, and this is Ugly Games signing out. All right, stay ugly.